In October 2025, something extraordinary streaked across the Martian sky, a flash of light moving faster than anything ever recorded on the red planet. It was silent, sharp, and incredibly fast, nearly 60 kilometers per second. For just a few seconds, NASA's Perseverance rover captured the object before its night cameras suddenly went dark. Then, just as quickly, every orbiter watching 3I/Atlas, the mysterious interstellar visitor, stopped sending data. Everything went silent. And when the first leaked images appeared online, showing a faint green flash above Mars's horizon, the scientific world froze. No comet should move like that. No ordinary object should glow without leaving traces of gas or dust. Something had happened in those missing frames, something no one at NASA, ESA, or even the James Webb Telescope could explain. It all started with one amateur astronomer, Stefan Burns, who released a 9-minute time-lapse using public images from Perseverance. The footage showed a razor-thin streak cutting across the Martian sky, perfectly matching 3I/Atlas's predicted path. Within hours, the video went viral. Scientists and enthusiasts all over the world scrambled to confirm or debunk it, comparing star maps, analyzing frames, and checking timestamps. Some said it was real, others called it noise or camera interference. But one strange detail kept reappearing, a bright green flash at exactly 0003 UTC. It was too sharp, too bright, and too perfectly timed to be a glitch. Was it a chemical reaction, a cosmic ray, or something far more deliberate, something that moved across Mars's sky on purpose? As speculation grew, one question started echoing across observatories. If this really was 3I/Atlas, why did all official data streams go dark at that exact moment? Normally, Mars orbiter data gets uploaded to public archives within days. But this time, nothing came through. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, Trace Gas Orbiter, and Mars Express, all of which were tracking the event, went completely silent. No images, no telemetry, only vague statements about data verification in progress. Inside JPL, teams worked under pressure, checking every pixel, every frame, every cosmic ray hit, afraid to make even the smallest mistake. But later, leaks revealed something even more shocking. Several instruments had detected smaller objects moving in perfect sync with 3I/Atlas, faint companions trailing behind it in formation. The motion was too precise to be random. Some called them debris fragments, others whispered a different word: probes. While most of Mars's orbiters stayed offline, one telescope kept watching, the James Webb Space Telescope. It waited for the moment when 3I/Atlas re-emerged from behind Mars's shadow. When the first bits of spectral data finally reached Earth, they only deepened the mystery. Usually, a comet's green glow means it's rich in dicarbon molecules, C2, gas that shines when hit by sunlight. But this time, there was no dicarbon at all. Instead, scientists found a bizarre mix of carbon dioxide, nickel, and cyanogen, a chemical signature no known comet has ever shown before. Whatever 3I/Atlas was, it wasn't behaving like a comet. Scientists were left puzzled when they discovered something completely unexpected in the data from 3I/Atlas. The ratio of nickel to iron was reversed, with nickel appearing in massive amounts, far more than any natural comet should have. Planetary chemists tried everything to make sense of it. Some suggested that the object might have formed in an exotic region of interstellar space. Others thought it could be contaminated with strange alloys, materials not found anywhere near our solar system. But one mystery refused to go away: the green glow. No one could explain it. How could light behave as though carbon was burning when there was no carbon at all? It broke every known rule of comet science. Unless the glow wasn't chemical at all, unless it was something else entirely, a signal disguised as light. Then came the images that shattered every model scientists had. Both Mars Express and the Trace Gas Orbiter captured something no comet should ever produce. A jet of material blasting toward the sun, not away from it. A forward jet. The data didn't fit any existing theory. The jet was too narrow, too bright, and too perfectly shaped. It looked less like gas being pushed by sunlight, and more like the object was propelling itself. Even stranger, despite this powerful outgassing, 3I/Atlas's path never changed. Its orbit stayed perfectly steady. No wobble, no drift, no sign of being pushed off course. That could only mean one thing. Whatever it was releasing wasn't affecting its motion at all. This wasn't a fragile ball of ice and dust. It was dense, heavy, and stable. More than 10 billion tons, closer to a metallic asteroid than a comet. As the evidence piled up, the idea that 3I/Atlas was a natural object started to fall apart. What if it wasn't shedding dust? What if it was activating? That's when something even stranger happened. While 3I/Atlas disappeared behind Mars, engineers monitoring the Deep Space Network noticed interference in their signals. Buried deep in the noise were rhythmic pulses, tiny, repeating spikes every 22 seconds. At first, scientists blamed solar wind or random interference, but the rhythm was too precise, too steady, the same pattern showing up on both NASA and ESA systems. It wasn't strong enough to be a real transmission, but it also wasn't random. It matched the object's orbital motion, as if 3I/Atlas was somehow responding to its own path. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the signal vanished. Mission Control called it electromagnetic resonance. But those who heard the filtered playback described something far more unsettling. A low mechanical hum slowly rising in pitch before cutting off into absolute silence. That was when the James Webb Space Telescope, stationed 1,000,000 miles away at Lagrange Point 2, turned its gaze directly toward the source. Scientists expected to see the usual, a faint blur, a dusty trail, maybe a few reflected particles. But what they found stunned everyone. The infrared images didn't show one object, but three. The first was the main core, right where 3I/Atlas was supposed to be. The other two were smaller, cooler, and positioned perfectly on either side of it, moving in sync, shifting slightly with Mars's magnetic field. Their movement wasn't random. Their formation was precise, balanced, and eerily engineered. Whatever this was, it wasn't just a comet. It was something else entirely. When the color images were processed, scientists noticed something extraordinary. Faint arcs of glowing material connecting the three objects. These filaments looked like streams of electricity, flickering as though energy was flowing between them. In visible light, the glow appeared soft green. But in infrared, the objects pulsed a deep red-hot, perfectly synchronized, every 22 seconds, matching the strange rhythm previously detected in the radio signals. No comet had ever behaved like this before. To some scientists, it looked like a system maintaining balance. To others, it resembled a form of propulsion. And yet, none of the objects seemed to be moving or speeding up. They just held their positions, as if orbiting something invisible. Soon, Webb's spectrograph revealed something even more baffling, the unmistakable presence of pure nickel vapor. This was impossible. Nickel is an extremely heavy, solid metal, and it shouldn't vaporize anywhere near Mars. Yet it dominated the data, glowing hotter than anything natural could. Along with it were faint traces of cobalt and a mysterious compound that emitted perfectly spaced light peaks. Too orderly to be random. The pattern looked less like geology and more like technology. It was as if the object was refining itself, reorganizing its outer layer using the sun's heat. Planetary scientists tried every theory imaginable, from metallic crystallization to magnetic shielding, but none could explain why 3I/Atlas's light seemed to carry data, not just energy. Its brightness was no longer steady. It began to blink, like a beacon. When those flashes were compared to the earlier electromagnetic hum detected during the Mars encounter, the patterns matched exactly. The pulses weren't random. They were information. As Webb continued tracking the object, the two smaller companions flanking the main body started to move, slowly, purposefully. They drifted outward, forming a perfect straight line with Mars, the Sun, and the comet's path. The formation held steady for hours before fading away, but the timing was too perfect to dismiss. Astrophysicists tried to call it coincidence, a trick of gravity, but the precision was impossible to ignore. Every alignment matched the same repeating pulse, the same 22-second rhythm echoing through the data. It was as if 3I/Atlas had synced itself with the structure of the solar system. Then, something incredible happened. The comet's green glow grew brighter, stretching into a narrow beam aimed directly toward the sun. The connecting filaments shimmered one last time and vanished. Moments later, Webb's data stream cut out as solar interference spiked, and then silence. For the first time in weeks, no light, no signal, nothing. Just the memory of a perfect, deliberate alignment, and the chilling thought that whatever 3I/Atlas had done near Mars was only the beginning. Days passed with instruments waiting, systems idling, predictions failing. Then, one day later, Webb picked up something, a faint pulse of infrared light emerging from the darkness. At first, it looked like a random flare, but within minutes, the signal stabilized, bright, sharp, and warm. Even its spectrum had changed. The familiar nickel lines were now joined by new, unknown signals, precisely spaced like the notes of a perfectly tuned instrument. Whatever 3I/Atlas had become, it was no longer behaving like a comet. It was something else, something awake. The mysterious 22-second rhythm that had haunted every observation since 3I/Atlas flew past Mars was still there. But this time, scientists noticed something layered beneath it, a second pulse, shorter, faster, and oddly familiar. When they checked the signal logs, the truth hit them like a shock. It wasn't just noise, it was an echo, a reflection of the very transmissions Earth had been sending into space for decades. It was as if 3I/Atlas had been listening and was now replying. Soon, radio observatories around the world picked up disturbances in the hydrogen line, 1,420 megahertz, the exact frequency used in the famous WOW signal back in 1977. The pulses repeated at perfectly timed intervals, too precise to be random. When scientists decoded the pattern, they found it eerily mirrored the comet's orbit, a spiral drawn in binary code, retracing the object's flyby path around Mars. This wasn't random, it was transmitting its own history back to us. The realization rocked the scientific community. No known physics could explain an interstellar object that could record, store, and retransmit information. And yet, the James Webb Telescope's data confirmed it. The light from 3I/Atlas carried structured, ordered signals embedded within its infrared emissions, as if it were intentionally sending a message. For days, astronomers debated whether to respond. Was this a discovery or a test? The hum continued, looping over and over, as though it were waiting for an answer. As the signals grew stronger, Webb's polarization sensors detected something even stranger. The light from 3I/Atlas was now polarized against the solar wind. Normally, sunlight scatters randomly through space, but this light was bending, following an invisible magnetic grid, forming a beam that stayed coherent across millions of kilometers, like a laser cutting through the solar system. Scientists tried to model it, but no simulation could match the precision. The polarization rotated at fixed intervals, perfectly aligned with Mars's rotation and Earth's orbit. It was as if 3I/Atlas was synchronizing itself with both planets, weaving a triangle of resonance across space. Amateur astronomers soon noticed strange reflections in the night sky. Faint green ripples would sweep across the horizon each time 3I/Atlas completed a polarization cycle. Visible from both hemispheres, they lasted only a few seconds before vanishing. Some thought it was a communication beam. Others whispered a countdown. Then, the impossible happened. Webb recorded a sudden change in 3I/Atlas's motion. It shifted slightly, less than 0.01% off its predicted path, yet the movement couldn't be explained by gravity or solar radiation. For the first time, the object had moved under its own power. The movement of 3I/Atlas was faint, gradual, and eerily precise, like a ship making a careful course correction. What made it even stranger was the direction. Instead of continuing its journey out of the solar system, the object curved slightly inward, aligning its path with Earth's orbital plane. The shift was microscopic, almost invisible, but it was clearly intentional. As the comet adjusted its course, its rhythmic 22-second pulse began to change too. It slowed, 23 seconds, then 24, as if it were adapting to Earth's own motion. The entire solar system seemed to pulse with it. Electromagnetic fields, radio signals, even seismic instruments across the globe registered the same rhythm. It wasn't just a signal from space anymore. It was passing through us. At first, the effects were subtle, small fluctuations in the upper atmosphere, faint flashes only visible to high-altitude observatories. But within days, the phenomenon became impossible to ignore. Pulsating green auroras appeared in places where they should never exist, over deserts, equatorial regions, and mid-latitudes, shimmering every 24 seconds, perfectly in sync with 3I/Atlas's pulse. Even human technology reacted. Air traffic control towers reported unusual electromagnetic interference. Communication satellites experienced brief, synchronized drops in signal. Every event lined up exactly with the comet's updated orbit. Night after night, the glow grew stronger. When scientists analyzed the atmosphere, they found something chilling. The light wasn't coming from the atmosphere itself. It was being projected onto it, as if 3I/Atlas were shining a beam from space. High-resolution telescopes traced the source. It wasn't the sun. It wasn't reflected light from any known celestial object. It was a narrow cone of energy coming directly from 3I/Atlas, now perfectly aligned with Earth's magnetic equator. This wasn't. The hum repeated in exact harmonic patterns, identical to the comet's light pulses. Devices across the planet started syncing without human input. Clocks began drifting into the 24-second cycle. Even atomic clocks on GPS satellites, precise to millionths of a second, ticked in perfect unison with the comet. It was as if the entire planet had become a receiver, resonating to 3I/Atlas. Engineers scrambled to find the source, but there was none. No jamming, no filtering, no terrestrial explanation. The phenomenon wasn't entering through airwaves or power lines. It was embedded in Earth's electromagnetic field itself. The planet was no longer just watching the object. It was participating in whatever it had started. Then came the observation that changed everything. The James Webb Space Telescope turned its gaze toward 3I/Atlas and spotted something extraordinary, a faint halo of light stretching outward in perfect geometric arcs. When scientists processed the data, the pattern was unmistakable. A perfect equilateral triangle connecting 3 points in space, 3I/Atlas, Earth, and Mars. Inside this triangle, filaments of charged particles shimmered in perfect sync, forming luminous pathways across the void. The alignment wasn't random. In fact, it lined up almost exactly with the location of the 1977 WOW signal, the mysterious radio burst that had captured the world's imagination nearly 50 years ago. Overlaying the data, astronomers realized something shocking. The direction of the WOW! Signal and 3I/Atlas intersected within less than a degree. Statistically, it was impossible. The revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community. 3I/Atlas wasn't drifting randomly through space. It had followed a precise interstellar corridor, pointing directly to a signal location we had detected decades earlier. And it wasn't done yet. With the triangle fully formed, energy readings from all 3 points began to rise dramatically. When scientists checked the signal logs, the truth hit them like a thunderbolt. It was an echo, a reflected version of the very transmissions Earth had been sending into space for decades. It was as if 3I/Atlas had been listening and was now responding. Almost immediately, radio observatories around the world detected disturbances along the hydrogen line, 1,420 megahertz, the same frequency used in the historic WOW signal. The pulses repeated at exact, precise intervals. When decoded, the harmonic structure mirrored the comet's orbit, a spiral in binary code tracing its flyby path around Mars. This wasn't random. 3I/Atlas was broadcasting its own history back to us. The realization stunned the scientific community. An interstellar object was recording, storing, and retransmitting information in a way that defied all known physics. And yet, James Webb's data confirmed the impossible. The light from 3I/Atlas contained modulated signals, structured, ordered, and intentionally embedded within its infrared emissions. For days, astronomers debated, should we respond? Was this a discovery or a test? Meanwhile, the hum of the signal continued, looping over and over as if waiting for a reply. Then came another startling discovery. Webb's polarization sensors revealed that 3I/Atlas's light was now aligned against the solar wind. Normally, sunlight scatters chaotically, but here, photons seem to follow an invisible magnetic lattice, forming a coherent beam stretching millions of kilometers. Like a laser across the solar system, the effect was precise. The beam's rotation matched Mars's rotation and Earth's orbit, almost as if 3I/Atlas were synchronizing with both planets, creating a triangle of resonance across space. Amateur astronomers began noticing strange green ripples in the night sky, faint, sweeping arcs visible from both hemispheres. They appeared every time 3I/Atlas completed one of its polarization cycles. Some thought it looked like a communication signal, others a countdown. Then something impossible happened. The James Webb Telescope recorded 3I/Atlas accelerating on its own. The deviation was tiny, less than 0.01%, but it couldn't be explained by gravity or solar radiation. For the first time, the object moved under its own power. The movement was subtle, gradual, and eerily precise, like a ship adjusting its course. Even stranger, it wasn't heading outward into interstellar space. Instead, it curved inward slightly, aligning with Earth's orbital plane. The shift was microscopic, but clearly intentional. And as 3I/Atlas adjusted its path, the 22-second pulse began to slow. 23, 24 seconds, almost as if it were matching Earth's own timing, adapting to our planet's motion. The entire solar system seemed to pulse with it. Electromagnetic fields, radio signals, even seismic instruments worldwide registered the same rhythm. The signal wasn't coming from space anymore. It was passing through us. At first, the effects were subtle. Faint flashes in the upper atmosphere, only visible to high-altitude observatories. But within days, the phenomenon became undeniable. Pulsating green auroras appeared where they should never be. Over deserts, equatorial regions, and mid-latitudes, shimmering every 24 seconds, perfectly in sync with 3I/Atlas. Even human technology reacted. Air traffic control towers reported electromagnetic interference, and communication satellites experienced brief, synchronized drops in signal, all lining up with the comet's orbit. The glow intensified night after night, and when scientists analyzed the atmosphere, they discovered something chilling. The light wasn't coming from the air itself, it was being projected onto it, as if the comet were shining a beam from space. High-resolution telescopes traced the source. It wasn't the sun, it wasn't reflected light. It was a narrow cone of energy emitted directly by 3I/Atlas, now perfectly aligned with Earth's magnetic equator. This wasn't a simple flyby. 3I/Atlas was targeting our planet with astonishing precision. Governments acted quietly but swiftly. Observatories, satellites, and radio telescopes were combined into a global network to monitor the object. 3I/Atlas was no longer just a comet. It had become organized, deliberate, and in control. Then something even stranger happened. Deep-sea cables, power grids, and underground data centers began emitting a faint electromagnetic hum. It wasn't random. The hum repeated in harmonic sequences identical to the comet's pulses. Devices across the globe began synchronizing involuntarily, clocks drifting into perfect 24-second rhythm, and even GPS satellites ticking in unison with the comet. It was as if Earth itself had become a receiver, resonating with 3I/Atlas. Engineers tried to find the source. Nothing worked. No jamming, no filtering. The phenomenon wasn't coming through power lines or airwaves. It was embedded in the electromagnetic field of our planet itself. The Earth wasn't just observing the comet anymore. It was participating in whatever it had begun. Then came the discovery that changed everything. The James Webb Telescope, focusing on 3I/Atlas, recorded a halo of light forming perfect geometric arcs, and the implications were staggering.